Chelsea versus Tottenham, May 2nd, 2016. This wasn't just any London derby. This was a title-deciding bloodbath that would destroy dreams and create legends. The Battle of the Bridge didn't just end Spurs' title hopes, it nearly ended careers and exposed the dark psychology of pressure. With Leicester City sitting just 1 point away from the most miraculous title in football history, Tottenham arrived at Stamford Bridge knowing they had to win. A draw meant their 55-year title drought would continue. What happened next was absolute carnage. 9 yellow cards for Spurs alone, shattering the previous Premier League record of 6. By the final whistle, players were throwing punches and completely losing their sanity. Moussa Dembele earned himself a 6-match ban for what the FA called violent conduct, after literally gouging Diego Costa's eyes. Costa, football's master provocateur, spent 90 minutes systematically destroying every Spurs player's mental state. The 2-2 draw handed Leicester the crown, but more importantly, it revealed how pressure and competitive instinct can transform professional athletes into primal animals. Chelsea, languishing in 10th place with absolutely nothing to play for except pure spite against their London rivals, had delivered the ultimate title assassination. Years later, referee Mark Clattenburg made a confession that still sends shockwaves through football. He deliberately allowed the chaos to unfold, admitting he could have sent 3 Spurs players off, but chose to let them self-destruct to avoid headlines blaming him for costing Tottenham the title. This wasn't just a match that got out of hand, it was a calculated demolition job that exposed how even the officials can shape destiny.
Tottenham versus Liverpool, September 2023, and VAR produced one of its most catastrophic failures in football history. Luis Diaz's goal should have stood. It was onside by a clear margin, but VAR somehow managed to confirm the wrong decision in the most embarrassing way possible. The audio later revealed the shocking truth. Darren England, the VAR official, thought the on-field decision was goal when it was actually offside. When he said, "check complete," he was confirming a decision that didn't exist. PGMOL called it a significant human error and did something almost unprecedented. They released the actual VAR audio to the public. You could hear the confusion, the panic, and the moment they realized they'd catastrophically messed up a crucial call. Liverpool were robbed of a legitimate goal in what would become a season-defining moment, and the fallout was massive. England and his assistant Daniel Cook were immediately stood down from their next appointments, and England was banned from VAR duty for over 6 months. Liverpool manager Jurgen Klopp called it unprecedented and demanded explanations that never fully came. The incident triggered worldwide discussions about whether VAR officials receive adequate training for such high-pressure situations. Liverpool finished 3rd that season, 9 points behind champions Manchester City, making this era even more devastating when you consider how title races are won and lost by the finest margins. The incident became the ultimate symbol of everything wrong with VAR. Technology designed to eliminate human error, destroyed by human error. The recordings prove that no matter how advanced the technology, human incompetence will always find a way to break it.
Manchester United versus Arsenal, October 20th, 1990, and 21 players decided to lose control in a single moment. That's right, out of 22 players on the pitch, literally everyone lost their minds except David Seaman, who stood in his goal watching the chaos like a concerned parent at a children's birthday party. This wasn't just a fight, it was a full-scale war that would shape one of football's fiercest rivalries for decades. What started as a brutal tackle from Nigel Winterburn on Dennis Irwin escalated into the most chaotic scene Old Trafford had ever witnessed. Punches flew, shirts were torn, and for about 20 seconds, football ceased to exist. This happened before the Premier League even existed, but this moment lit the fuse for the United-Arsenal battles that would dominate the 1990s and 2000s. The FA had seen enough. In an unprecedented move that remains the only time in English football history, they docked Arsenal 2 points and Manchester United 1 point. Arsenal's fine was the largest in English football history at the time. Arsenal would go on to become champions despite the punishment, but imagine the chaos if those points had mattered for the championship. What's remarkable
is that Arsenal had already been involved in a similar 19-man brawl against Norwich just a year earlier, yet they still couldn't learn their lesson. This wasn't just a football match that got out of hand. It was the moment that created the toxic atmosphere that would define English football's biggest rivalry for the next 2 decades.
Aston Villa versus Manchester United. The final day of the 2024-25 season, and one whistle blow destroyed Champions League dreams. Villa were down to 10 men after Emiliano Martinez's red card, trailing in a must-win match when Morgan Rogers thought he'd scored the equaliser that could save everything. The ball crossed the line, and then came the crushing reality. Referee Thomas Bramall had blown for a foul on the goalkeeper before the ball went in. The replays were damning. Altay Bayindir never had control of the ball, but VAR couldn't intervene because the whistle had already stopped play. Villa missed Champions League qualification by the smallest of margins, finishing behind Newcastle on goal difference when just a point would have been enough. The financial consequences were immediate. Over £50 million in lost revenue from missing Europe's elite competition. Villa filed a formal complaint with PGMOL, not about the decision itself, but about appointing one of the Premier League's most inexperienced referees for such a crucial match. Manager Unai Emery confirmed the referee admitted his mistake, but the damage was irreversible. The timing of that whistle became one of the most debated moments in recent Premier League history, proving that in football's biggest moments, the smallest errors can have the largest consequences.
Manchester City versus QPR, May 13, 2012, and Joey Barton completely lost his mind on the biggest stage possible. With Manchester City needing to win to claim their first Premier League title in 44 years, tensions were already through the roof. Then Barton decided to become the main character for all the wrong reasons. First, he elbowed Carlos Tevez in the face, red card. But instead of walking off quietly, Barton went into complete meltdown mode. He kneed Sergio Aguero in the back of the leg, then tried to headbutt Vincent Kompany before squaring up to Mario Balotelli. A full-scale melee erupted as City players surrounded him, with former teammate Micah Richards having to physically drag him off the pitch. The irony was perfect. While Barton was busy destroying his career, Aguero was about to score the most famous goal in Premier League history. As Barton trudged off in disgrace, City scored twice in stoppage time to win the title. What happened next still raises eyebrows today. After City equalised, QPR immediately kicked the ball straight back to them, seemingly in panic mode. Wayne Rooney has repeatedly called for this to be looked into, saying he finds it strange that QPR's reaction was never questioned. The madness didn't end there. Barton took to Twitter afterward, admitting he tried to take one of their players with me on the advice of a teammate. The FA handed him a record-breaking 12-match ban, the longest in Premier League history at the time. QPR stripped him of the captaincy, fined him 6 weeks' wages, and refused to give him a squad number the following season. While QPR avoided relegation despite playing with 10 men, Barton's career at the club was effectively over. The contrast couldn't have been more brutal. One player writing himself into football history, while another wrote himself out of a job.
Everton versus Manchester City. February 26, 2022, and VAR forgot how to spot a handball that even Rodri later admitted was a penalty. The Manchester City midfielder controlled the ball with his arm inside City's penalty area. Not his chest, not his shoulder, his arm. Every single replay showed it clearly, yet somehow VAR concluded no penalty should be awarded. Frank Lampard's reaction said it all. He was absolutely furious, calling it incompetence at best, and saying his 3-year-old daughter could tell you that was a penalty. Everton were fighting relegation. Every point mattered, and they'd just been denied a clear penalty against the eventual champions. PGMOL later apologised personally to Chairman Bill Kenwright and Lampard, calling it a significant error. But apologies don't award points. The decision exemplified everything fans hate about VAR. When it's needed most, it fails spectacularly. Everton survived relegation by just 5 points that season, making this dropped penalty absolutely crucial in their survival battle. Lampard's post-match interview went viral, with fans across the country supporting his furious reaction, regardless of club allegiance. City went on to win the title by a single point over Liverpool, while Everton's survival went to the final day. Months later, even Rodri admitted the truth, saying you can say it's a penalty after seeing the replays. The incident contributed to growing calls for VAR officials to face public accountability for their decisions.
Manchester United versus Chelsea, April 3, 2010, and Didier Drogba scored one of the most controversial offside goals in Premier League history. Late at Old Trafford, with the title race on a knife's edge, Drogba found the net to give Chelsea a crucial 2-1 victory. There was just one problem. He was clearly offside. The replays were damning. Sir Alex Ferguson was absolutely furious, and the officials knew they'd made a massive mistake. This wasn't a marginal call that could go either way. Drogba was visibly ahead of the last defender when the ball was played. The consequences were swift and severe. Referee Mike Dean and assistant Simon Beck were immediately demoted to championship duty after their poor performance, as Ferguson called it. What made it even worse was that they'd also missed clear penalties for both sides in the same match. Chelsea went on to win the title that season by a single point over United, making this goal absolutely crucial. Ferguson's post-match interview was legendary, calling the officiating a disgrace. The incident accelerated discussions about introducing technology to assist referees with offside decisions. Dean later admitted the error haunted him for years, describing it as one of his biggest career regrets. One wrong decision can literally change the course of history, and this was exactly one of those moments.
Newcastle versus Arsenal, November 4, 2023, and Anthony Gordon scored the goal that broke VAR. The ball appeared to go out of play. There might have been a foul in the build-up, and Gordon could have been offside. 3 separate checks, 3 different reasons to disallow the goal, yet somehow it stood. VAR officials spent 4 agonizing minutes checking each incident before Howard Webb later admitted the process was unusual, with multiple aspects to review. Mikel Arteta erupted, calling it an absolute disgrace and saying, "I feel embarrassed and I feel sick to be part of this." The Premier League later released the full VAR audio, revealing officials saying, "I've got no conclusive evidence for each of the 3 potential infractions." Arsenal's 11-game unbeaten run was over. Their title hopes took a hit, and VAR's credibility took another beating. The incident showed how VAR could be both overly interventionist and completely useless in the same decision. 3 potential errors, 1 wrong decision, that left Arsenal players visibly distraught on the pitch, questioning how 3 separate reviews could all miss obvious infractions. Newcastle's victory proved crucial. They finished 7th but missed European qualification when Manchester United won the FA Cup, taking the Europa League spot that should have gone to 7th place. For Arsenal, their title challenge never fully recovered from this controversial defeat. Sometimes having all the technology in the world means nothing if you don't know how to use it. Manchester United versus Arsenal, September 21, 2003, and Ruud van Nistelrooy's penalty miss triggered one of the ugliest scenes in Premier League history. The Battle of Old Trafford erupted when Van Nistelrooy struck the crossbar with a late penalty that could have won the game. Martin Keown jumped up beside Van Nistelrooy and brought his arms down hard on the striker's back. Players came flying in from all angles, and the fracas became legendary. The FA's punishment was severe. Arsenal received a record £175,000 fine and multiple player suspensions. Lauren got 4 matches, Keown got 3, Vieira and Parler got 1 each. The irony? Arsenal went on to complete an entire unbeaten season, but this moment of madness nearly derailed everything. The incident became part of Arsenal's Invincibles folklore, with players claiming the unity forged in that confrontation carried them through the season. Ferguson used the incident as motivation for United's revenge the following year, when they ended the unbeaten run. Sometimes the biggest battles happen after the final whistle, and sometimes they create legends.
Everton versus Liverpool. September 27, 1999, and the Merseyside derby descended into chaos that shocked even hardened football fans. This wasn't just heated rivalry, it was complete madness, with 3 red cards in the final 20 minutes that would define both clubs' seasons. The drama started when Everton took a shock 4th-minute lead through Kevin Campbell, but the real fireworks came in the second half. With 15 minutes left, goalkeeper Sander Westerveld and Francis Jeffers collided during play, then completely lost their heads. The pair exchanged full-on punches, throwing wild swings at each other before being separated and both seeing red. With Liverpool having used all 3 substitutions, Steve Staunton had to don the goalkeeper gloves for the final quarter hour. But the carnage wasn't over. In stoppage time, 19-year-old Steven Gerrard, barely 47 seconds after coming on as substitute, produced a horrific waist-high tackle on Campbell that left everyone stunned. Gerrard later admitted in his autobiography he was a red card waiting to happen and had planned to just belt one of them, a moment of madness that would haunt his early career. The referee had no choice but to show his 3rd red card of the night. Everton held on for a famous 1-0 victory, while Liverpool's European hopes took a massive blow from this self-destructive meltdown. The match became a cautionary tale about how derby passion can spiral into pure violence, with 3 players paying the ultimate price for losing control completely. Manchester United versus Tottenham. January 4, 2005, and football witnessed its most famous ghost goal. Pedro Mendes launched a speculative 50-yard shot toward goal after spotting Roy Carroll well off his line. The United goalkeeper fumbled the ball completely, and it clearly crossed the line before he desperately clawed it back. Goal, right? Wrong. Referee Mark Clattenburg and his assistant Rob Lewis were too far away from the 89th minute incident, and crucially, Carroll's own body blocked the linesman's view as he scrambled back toward his goal line. Without goal line technology, and with their vision obstructed, the decision stood. Replay showed the ball was at least 2 yards over the line. This wasn't marginal, it was blindingly obvious to everyone except the officials who mattered most. The incident became a defining catalyst for the eventual introduction of goal line technology years later. But that was no consolation to Tottenham in the moment. Martin Jol's frustration epitomized every manager dealing with human error in crucial decisions. Carroll later admitted in interviews he knew the ball had crossed the line, but wasn't about to tell the referee. A moment of honesty that shocked many. The ghost goal featured in every argument for technology in football for the next decade. United salvaged a valuable point in their push for 3rd place, though Chelsea would ultimately cruise to the title that season, while Spurs missed out on precious momentum in their European qualification push. Keith Hackett, the referee's chief, felt sick to the stomach watching from the stands, knowing exactly what the officials couldn't see. Sometimes the most important goals are the ones that never get awarded, and this ghost goal haunted football for years.
Liverpool versus Chelsea, April 27, 2014. While everyone remembers Steven Gerrard's slip, the real story was Jose Mourinho's systematic gamesmanship that referee Martin Atkinson allowed to go virtually unpunished. Chelsea's time wasting was premeditated. Mark Schwarzer revealed Mourinho's exact instructions. "Lads, I want at least 2 bookings for time wasting before half-time." They followed a detailed plan from the first goal kick, with elaborate routines designed to get the fans riled up and break Liverpool's rhythm. Luis Suarez later blasted their approach, saying they were wasting time from the very start, despite needing to win. One Chelsea player told Suarez that if Mourinho makes us play like this, I have to play like this. Yet Atkinson barely intervened. The comically brazen time wasting went largely unpunished. Liverpool's frustration grew as Chelsea turned Anfield into a theatre of deliberate disruption. Gerrard's slip gifted Demba Ba the opener in first half stoppage time. The moment became decisive because Mourinho's tactics had already neutered Liverpool's attack. The slip became the story, but Chelsea's victory was built on systematic gamesmanship that Atkinson inexplicably tolerated. Willian's injury-time goal sealed 2-0, handing Manchester City the title initiative. Mourinho's smug celebration wasn't just about winning. It proved how easily the system could be manipulated with selective officiating. Statistical analysis later revealed troubling patterns. After Gerrard criticised Atkinson in his 2015 autobiography, data shows the referee gave Liverpool just one major decision in nearly 30 subsequent games over 7 years, 0 at Anfield. Liverpool's win percentage under Atkinson was notably lower than average. The slip became folklore, but only mattered because systematic time wasting and questionable officiating had tilted the field. Chelsea exposed how football's biggest moments can be shaped by those willing to exploit the darker arts when referees allow it. The slip was just the moment that made it possible. Aston Villa vs Sheffield United, June 17, 2020. And the Premier League witnessed a technological failure that relegated Bournemouth and cost them hundreds of millions of pounds. In the first game back after COVID lockdown, goal line technology suffered its first ever malfunction in over 9,000 matches, and the Premier League desperately wants you to forget the devastating consequences. Oliver Norwood's 42nd minute free kick was fumbled by Orjan Nyland, who clearly fell over his own goal line with the ball in his hands. The 7 Hawkeye cameras were significantly occluded by the goalkeeper and goalpost, a level of obstruction never seen before. So referee Michael Oliver's watch never buzzed. VAR inexplicably failed to intervene, despite 69 seconds passing before play resumed. Hawkeye issued a grovelling apology, but the damage was done. Sheffield United were robbed of 3 points in a match that finished 0-0. The conspiracy deepened when the final table revealed the scandal's true cost. Aston Villa survived with 35 points, while Bournemouth were relegated with 34 points. Exactly 1 point separating Premier League survival from Championship exile. If that goal had been correctly awarded, Villa would have lost 1-0, finished level on 34 points with Bournemouth, and been relegated on goal difference instead. Bournemouth's board immediately threatened legal action against Hawkeye for hundreds of millions in lost revenue from relegation. This wasn't just a technical glitch, it was the most expensive non-goal in Premier League history. Chris Wilder later joked that Nyland was halfway into the Holt end when the ball crossed the line, while Bournemouth chairman Jeff Mostyn called it the worst injustice in football history. The Premier League's most trusted technology failed at the worst possible moment, and an entire club paid the ultimate price for a mechanical malfunction that should never have happened. These incidents shaped title races, destroyed careers, and cost clubs hundreds of millions. Yet, they remain buried beneath the sanitized highlights. Which of these forgotten controversies shocked you the most? Let me know in the comments below, and subscribe for more untold stories the Premier League doesn't want you to remember.